Hey, if you're watching this right now, chances are you're exhausted. You've checked all the boxes in life, career, you got the career, you got the marriage, the kids, but you also have the never ending to do list. And at the end of the day, you still kind of just go to bed with a lump in your throat, despite doing it all. Maybe you're a woman like me who learned early on that strength meant independence. It was success. Well, success meant pushing through it, doing the hard things. Or maybe you're a man who believed being a good provider was enough until, you realize at the end of the day, when you drive home, you don't even want to go into your house. Again, you did all the right things, but your house started to feel like a place you don't even belong in. Well, let me say something you might not expect to hear from someone who has a PhD and decades of experience in psychology. Peace doesn't come after the chaos is over. It comes when you give thanks in the middle of it, when you're going through the storm. You know, I used to think that gratitude was more or less like a response to something going well. But, now I know it's more I use gratitude more like a weapon, a way to disarm the bitterness before it takes over me. And like what do I mean by that? Well, let me talk to you a little bit about the bitterness that we don't talk about, really. I mean, I've felt it all, the resentment, felt the need to be in control, sort of this quiet rage. I tended to be somebody in my marriage of the past, kind of got over that relationship. I mean, I'm still in a relationship, I'm still in a 28-year marriage, but I do things a lot differently now than I did then. Like when I felt resentment, I became quite dismissive and I would just kind of turn away and walk away. But that's what I mean about quiet rage. And that's not a good thing to do. That quietness, like that heavy sigh that you would make when your husband walks into the room because he still doesn't get it, sort of thing. Um, the ache that you feel when your child slams the door, treating your home like you built it just as sort of their stopover, something they're going to use on their way to adulthood or whatever it is. Like no respect, no honoring of the parents and, what you sort of set down as the law. And then you try therapy, you try the books, you listen to the podcasts, and maybe you go to prayer. But, it still feels off. You still feel bitter. And yeah, you're just left confused, dazed and confused. But, here's the truth we don't want to hear, like the uncomfortable truth. And that is, well, bitterness won't leave you until you replace it with something else. You can't leave a vacuum. You can't leave this hole because something else is going to fill that hole. You have to replace it. And that that something to replace it is nothing more than gratitude. But again, not when the storm has passed, but while it's in rage. So what does that mean? Well, that means we have to shift from this idea of fixing them to forming them, whether that's a child, your spouse, whoever that might be. There's a, a passage in Corinthians that flipped everything upside down for me. I love Paul's works in the Bible, and this one especially, where he says, "I take pleasure in infirmities." For when I'm weak, I am strong. So, when you hear that, it doesn't really make sense until really you've lived through something that breaks you open. And many people come to me broken, and we've all been there, I think. I mean, I, when I have challenges in my own family, I used to pray more like, God, fix my son, change my husband, help my, whatever. But now I pray more something similar to God, don't let this harden me. Please keep my heart tender because I don't want bitterness because if your peace depends on everyone else changing, you'll never have it. Don't pray for another person to change because that's not going to keep you from protecting your peace. Yeah, I think as a parent we all wrestle with bitterness. I think, and like it probably shifts from time to time, right? Sometimes maybe it's towards your husband. If you're a woman, it's towards your, if you're a man, towards your wife. But right now, I feel like it's my child, and at times maybe all three of them. But yeah, and I think it's because when your child wounds you, like not physically, but with their indifference, their disrespect, it's a pain that it's just always sort of there. It simmers under the surface, you could say. It's quiet, but it's constant. And well, I just want to share a little bit what I've learned about that. And that is like bitterness really just cauterizes the wound, but it doesn't cleanse it. And that's the problem. It might make you stoic, but it also makes you cold and kind of like efficient, for lack of a better word. But it's not freeing. I stopped trying to forgive and started building contentment inside. Because really, forgiveness can still leave a vacancy. And where I feel as contentment fills a room with love before resentment can move back in. Contentment is very powerful when you practice it right, and you have to see gratitude and thanksgiving as warfare. When it all feels like it's too much, when my mind starts making like a case for why I deserve to feel this anger, and we all do that when we spend a lot of time in our heads. We build these narratives, and it's like, or this is why, I deserve to feel angry. This is why. It's because of the hurt, the disappointment. Well, when that happens to me, I fight back and I say this very small phrase. That's thank you. Thank you. Not because I like what's happening, but more because I trust that God is still doing something with me. Well, with me and with what's happening. He hasn't left the room. He hasn't checked out of the storm. He's still there. And so I give thanks for that. Like, thank you for this child. Even when he breaks my heart, thank you for this marriage, even when I'm sitting in silence right now. Thank you for this exhaustion, this fatigue, because maybe it's teaching me dependence, not to be independent, but dependence. So, what is peace actually when you think of it? What's peace to you? I want you to see peace as something that you don't have to protect. you must see peace as something that protects you. It's your guard. It's the armor that you put on. And peace doesn't come from getting your life in order. That's not going to give you peace. It comes from surrendering to someone who can actually carry it. And that to me is God, you know. Let him carry it. Honestly, if all you do today is whisper thank you, through gritted teeth, thank you that this is happening for me, you've already taken a step towards healing, because that's when the walls start coming down. That's when your soul says, be it, let it be done. Like, I don't have all the answers for you during this storm that you may be going through right now, and you're still in the thick of it. But I do know that gratitude is really the holy ground. That's really where you're going to that's where the bitterness leaves and the contentment replaces it. Yeah. So, in other words, you don't have to keep on wishing for when it's over. Just stay in it right now. Give thanks, knowing that in your suffering that you're going through right now, he is also suffering. He's suffered for you. He suffered much more than the suffering that you're going through right now. But he has special love for you for the suffering that you're going through right now. And he will continue to remain. And maybe it just means you're going closer towards him by doing that. Surrender it to him. Don't try to control it yourself. And that's what I mean about you don't need to protect your peace, because it's always there with you, if you see it in that way. So, yeah, don't wait till it's over. Give thanks right now. Again, because before the peace, before you obtain that peace that you want so badly, there's always a letting go. And before letting go, it's gratitude. So, fiat. Let me know what your thoughts on this are, or if you need any more help through it. I'll be happy to answer any comments you have. Thanks for watching.